Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are watching this video. It's your boy Robbie. I'm back with another react. I'm glad y'all can make it. Pull up on me and watch this reaction. This one's going to be coming from the YouTube channel Logically Answered. Sony has done it again. I seen somewhere where they are putting some stickers on the PlayStations that they're shipping out, saying that they would no longer be doing the whole physical disc thing. This thing has people in a serious uproar, and you're now starting to see an uptick in people collecting older systems like the M64, supposed to be like a recreation of the N64. N64 games are going up in price. CRT TVs are going up. It's just crazy. It's just a real crazy landscape where the gaming world is. But let's not waste no time. Let's see what's going on with this video. Let's get to it.
Sony just made their biggest change in history. From 2028, there will be no more physical PlayStation games.
Right.
Everything will be digital. No more secondhand, no more sharing games. Everything will be through the Sony store. And it's backfiring. But according to Sony, this is just where customers are moving. So, are they right? Is this really just where things are moving? And why are physical games still so important?
Well, just to get it going, why I think that it's important, it's because should the server go down, things start going cuckoo, at least you have a physical copy of the game where you could still play it. But a lot of times what I find is with these newer games, there's so many updates and plugins that you have to have in order for the game to even work. So it's kind of like these discs are just there for the sake. It's like they've already kind of like told us ahead of time, like, look, game discs aren't really going to mean anything because, yeah, the game itself might be housed on there, but there's so many different features and, like I said, plugins that you have to download digitally that doesn't come with the game. So they kind of already been getting us hip and ready for this anyway.
Let's take a closer look at what's really happening and Sony's claims. In the official blog post, they say, as consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. This is a first in PlayStation history. This also seems to heavily imply the PS6 won't have a disk drive, so no more
I
Blu-ray
hope
or
that's not how the
DVD support
PlayStation 6
either.
looks. That's
Immediately
ugly.
after this announcement went live, the backlash was widespread and intense. 66,000 likes, over 100,000 replies, and 70,000 retweets. Almost twice the amount of replies to likes is a bad sign. You will own nothing, 122,000 likes. Hashtag not buying PS6 unless it supports physical games. Guys, this is a really bad decision. WTF. I have no words. Final nail in the coffin of the company I once loved. This news began spreading everywhere.
You know, I think it's safe to say that the Sony PlayStation best days are behind them. I mean, think about it. They've been supreme. They've been top dog for 20 plus years in the gaming space ever since they came out in 1994 in the US market. They've dominated. They pretty much packed Sega up, which I'm hoping Sega is seeing all of this. Yeah, I mean, everybody can't stay at the top forever. You know what I'm saying? So it might just be Sony PlayStation's time. The only thing Sony is good for nowadays, in my opinion, is making cameras. Hell, this is a Sony camera I'm recording on. The FX5, the FX3, like that's what they're good for now. You know, videography, cinematography. That's where their bread and butter is. They honestly, I truly think they're gonna eventually get out of the gaming space because I mean they've dominated for so long, you know?
Retailers understandably weren't very happy. Shall we start with PS Plus cancellations for today? Which, for record, people did. Other brands began mocking Sony's announcement. In response to trends in the gaming industry, Domino's will cease production of physical
Everybody's
pizzas
milking
and
this.
shift to production of digital pizzas only. KFC did the same. Some of these were pretty funny. In response to the gaming industry removing physical offerings, Proton have decided to make our services entirely physical. It wasn't just Sony getting flack either. They get paid to promote upcoming games with posts on X, but even the games affiliated with Sony after the announcement received huge backlash and review bombs.
Sony definitely expected a ton of backlash, and I don't know if you saw this, people watching this, but they are actively hiding from social media right now. They have gone radio silent from announcing this, and they actually did this before when they killed off Bluepoint. They are just trying to hide and then pop up in, I would assume, at least 72 hours, maybe even 7 days from now, and just hope everybody's already forgotten about it.
Hell
And
no.
I don't think we should let them.
What makes all of this even more ironic is that Sony made fun of Xbox for doing the same thing, except 13 years ago.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
Boy, does this ad have a lot more attention today. This video has aged just as well as Netflix's "love is sharing a password" tweet. Play does have limits after all, but this ad shows us how Sony has changed. This is Shuhei Yoshida and Adam Boyes, the former president of Sony Worldwide Studios and former VP of third-party publisher and developer relations, and was heavily involved in some of the biggest Sony titles. But Yoshida was
Yo, I know this is a sidebar, dummy mission, but why was my man's teeth, grill looking like that? I don't be understanding, man. These dudes be making hella bread. Why don't y'all get y'all grill fixed? I guess you get to a point where you like, look, I don't really care how my teeth look. You know, I ain't out here kissing nobody, so it's all good.
actually fired because he disagreed with the PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan wanted to remove me from first party because I didn't listen to him. He asked to do some ridiculous things and I said no. The point about first party developers is very interesting because it's not just consumers who are upset. Industry veterans and longtime Sony partners are expressing that they're not thrilled about this. Hideo Kojima, one of the most acclaimed video game directors in history, said, "Since production is ending in 2028, this is about video games. But I grew up with physical media, so I find it really sad. They are downloaded to the hard drive. That means the game data remains on your own hardware. However, if things shift to streaming in the future, that won't be the case anymore. There are companies that own these servers and let you turn the tap for a monthly fee. However, one naturally has to consider the possibility that if there is a change, the data inside will stop being distributed."
You know, I really think, in my humblest opinion, that essentially what is going to happen is that, like I said, you're going to see an uptick in people just reverting back to playing older consoles, PlayStation 2s, Xboxes. I mean, Nintendo is still dominating in the hybrid space with the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know how the sales did. I'm sure it, it's selling, but with this announcement, I'm sure we're going to see an uprise in Nintendo Switch purchases, Nintendo Switch 2. I have a Nintendo Switch over here. I was thinking about getting a Nintendo Switch 2 because, you still can buy physical media and stuff like that. Me, I'm kind of like 50-50 with it. I do like having physical games, as y'all clearly can see. I got PS3, PS4, Nintendo Switch games up there. And I do have games that are downloaded. Like on my PS3, I got Marvel vs. Capcom on there. I downloaded that. What else? I do have Streets of Rage 4 on my PS4. Now, I am a little ticked with Sony because I can't sign into my PlayStation Network because my PlayStation 4 has been in storage for over a year, so I hadn't been using it. And they are giving me the hardest damn time getting logged back in. And I've purchased digital media, Crooklyn, certain things. And so it's like an uphill battle to try to get them to let me in. So I don't know. But yeah, I think we're going to see an uprising and people just going back to playing old games.
And if that happens, you won't be able to watch or play the movies and games you like. But something about all of this is a bit weird. On July 3rd, 2 days after the announcement, Sony CEO Hiroki Totoki sold 56% of his Sony shares for $4.7 million.
He said,
On
look,
the
I'm getting
same
all my
day,
bread. I'm
Chairman
getting out of here.
Kenichiro Yoshida sold 400,000 shares, and other Sony executives sold too. The combined insider sales are roughly around 10.5 million. Granted, this is related to a Sony buyback, but the timing sure is strange. But despite all the backlash, is Sony actually wrong? Is this just the uncomfortable truth that physical games are dying?
Depends on who you ask.
Sony said, consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital. So, are they right? According to Sony, 78% of games sold for the full year of 2025 were digital. But in Q4, digital downloads for full games was 85% of sales, while physical was just 15%. But that's just Sony, and there's something else to consider. On the PS Store, there's hundreds of games, many of which never make it to physical media because their market is so small anyway. It's the bigger games that have wider physical releases. Since Sony is including everything, this will be naturally skewed more to digital. A heavy-hitting physical game like God of War will be counted the same as a 99-cent game on the PS Store. But only 7 games have sold over 100,000 physical units for the financial year, which makes it clear how small the library of physical games is on the PS5 compared to the PS4, which had a vast library.
You know, let me tell y'all what I think is coming. This whole getting rid of physical media, this is just phase one. They're like, okay, we're going to take away physical games. I think what's coming next is the end of console making. I know I might be stretching here, but I really see that being a thing where the only thing you are going to essentially have is a controller, and you're going to sign in to the server or the network, and you're going to go through your digital library of games. You're going to connect your controller to your television, and you're going to be able to play games. So that's going to cut down on production. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Sony suffered the same fate as Sega. What if the PlayStation 6 is the final PlayStation console? You know what I mean? What if Sony is giving hints that maybe they're getting out of the gaming space eventually? Because for them to be doing this and them seeing the backlash and them going through with it and forward, you know, they may potentially suffer the same fate as Sega. But I think that this is just phase one. They are eventually going to phase out consoles because that is a physical product that they have to manufacture. And then with artificial intelligence being at the forefront and memory being extremely expensive and them having talks, there being talks about the PlayStation 6 being $1,000, who's going to pay for that? Is everybody just going to be after paying and affirming their life away to play video games?
Though even the biggest physical releases were heavily skewed towards digital. FC26, aka the new name for the FIFA series, had physical sales of just 12%. Not only that, 6.4 million didn't even buy the game at all, but played it through the PS Plus subscription. Other games had a larger physical split, but not too much more. Resident Evil Requiem, 3.5 million sales, about 28% physical. Crimson Desert, 1.9 million, about 20% physical. And this gets a bit more bleak when we look at the actual financials. According to their financial results for 2025, physical software, aka physical games, was 121 billion yen. Digital software, though, was 949 billion yen. But let's look a bit further, beyond Sony. According to the UK Digital Entertainment and Retail Association, 89.5% of games sold in the UK were digital downloads. Though do note that this includes mobile apps.
Yeah, I really just think that people, again, I understand it. You know, you've been accustomed to physical games, especially if you're as old as me or older. When we were growing up, everything was physical. And then slowly but surely, we started to see digital games come into the fold in the early 2010s. You know what I mean? And now here we are. But this is saying a lot. This obviously, they see it. They're like, look, people aren't buying physical games like that. I mean, even me, when I go to Walmart, Target, I'm seeing physical games everywhere. You know what I mean? Not to say that you didn't see physical games 10 plus years ago, but for there to be 89.5% of games being sold digitally in the UK, it's like, look, they see the writing on the wall. Like, look, we got more people buying digital games than physical games. So we don't need to really invest in that anymore. And then it gets to a point where it's like, how much do you need? You know what I mean? Like even in this content room, it's only but so much space that I have. Do I really want to be having 6, 7 consoles and games all over the place? Like, nah, digital games, honestly, is a lifesaver because it takes away the headache of having to have a house full of stuff that you have no space for. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at the pro in it.
But at the same time, that also only made up 30% of sales. It seems, to be honest, pretty cut and dry. Physical is, without a doubt, becoming more niche for video games, though there is one hole in Sony's argument. You can buy a regular PS5 or a digital-only version, which has no disk drive. Not only does the company charge less for the digital-only PS5, but the new PS5 Pro only comes in a digital version. Yet 82% of all PS5s have a disk drive, even though it's more expensive and even though most sales are digital. That tells you something about what customers want. They still value having both and will pay for both. So why is Sony doing this, really? It turns out it's because of consumer preferences.
Like I said, there's two sides to this. There's two teams.
If you've watched this far, you probably enjoy our stuff, so consider subscribing. Thank you. Rise Elliott from Alinea Analytics made an excellent point about something Sony is really fighting. Our estimates have 25%. Almost 900,000 players of Resident Evil Requiem's PS5 player base clocking under 10 hours. What I'm getting at here is that plenty of those physical copies will end up in the hands of resellers, which is exactly what neither Capcom nor PlayStation wants. The beauty of physical products is that you can sell them, loan them, or give them away when you're done. But every time someone does this, it means Sony misses out on revenue. The reality is, Sony isn't doing this because of consumer trends. They're doing this to improve margins and gain sales that are taken by secondhand copies. This is all about margins.
Now this, I kind of am like, that's kind of screwed up or messed up rather because, yeah, if I buy a game, I beat the game. If I don't, for whatever reason, see myself playing the game in the future, why not have the option to sell that product? So what are we saying about shoes and sneakers? You know what I'm saying? If I buy a pair of sneakers, which they can't do something. See, that's the thing. You couldn't do that with clothes. With clothes, it's like, look, you're not going to tell me I can't resell something that I've worn. You know what I mean? But see, something like this, they have that upper hand. But it is kind of screwed up that they would take that option away because they want to make more money.
With the move away from physical discs, no more secondhand games bought and sold. No more sharing games. You can't even buy a console secondhand with games because they're attached to the account, not the console. Everything you buy
It's
will
insane,
be under
y'all.
Sony's
This is
thumb,
insane.
and they can do whatever they want. They just removed over 500 movies from the PlayStation Store as licenses expire. Even if you bought some of these, you can't watch them anymore, and they can do this with games too. In fact, they just did in August, removing 9 from PS Plus. Also, under their terms, if you haven't used your account in 3 years, they'll just close your account, and you'll lose permanent access to all products you paid for.
See, that's the dilemma I'm dealing with now. Now, it hasn't been over 3 years since I last used my PlayStation Network account, but they're giving me the damnest hard time getting back into it, and I don't understand that. You know, it's just pissing me off even more.
As a reminder, people pay over $600 for one of these consoles. Imagine doing that and paying hundreds more for digital products, and Sony removes them all. And if you don't believe me, game companies are already doing this. In 2024, Ubisoft, another game publisher, delisted the open-world multiplayer racing game, The Crew. They then shut the game servers down, meaning nobody could play it anymore because it's always online. Customers had paid full price for this game and had also purchased microtransactions. We understand this may be disappointing for players still enjoying the game, but it has become a necessity due to upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints.
You see, that's the thing, and I'm gonna stop stopping the video so much, but that's the thing I don't think they accounted for when it comes to making everything digital, is that that's just gonna put more and more strain on the environment. See, there's a upside to having physical games. It's like, look, you put the physical game in your system, and then your console does all the heavy lifting. That's why y'all put fans in it. You put thermal paste on the chips and everything like that so that it can handle that. But now what you're essentially saying is you're going to take away the physical game, and now you're going to put more strain on the environment because now you got to build more centers to hold more servers because now more and more people have to play online. So is this really the best move here? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it is. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good to have, a good medium, but it shouldn't be like this where you just completely take away physical games. I don't know. I'm just really like in a space now mentally where it's like, because then you have environmentalists that feel like, okay, all this plastic waste and disc and stuff like that, that's not good for the environment. It's like, maybe we just need to all just go outside and just play stickball and just say the hell with video games. You know what I'm saying?
Customers were understandably quite annoyed, which led to a lawsuit. Ubisoft argued that there was no reason for players to believe they were purchasing unfettered ownership rights in the game. This is why the Stop Killing Games movement has gained so much support in the EU. Even if people don't buy physical games as much, they still like the option to be able to. Hence the massive proportion of disc drive PS5s. Sony is just taking away choice from consumers. Choice that other companies, hopefully, will continue to offer, which makes the PS5 less appealing. One of the best feelings is playing an old favorite game or movie from 10, 20, or even 30 years ago because you still have the physical disc. No need to worry about licenses expiring, accounts being removed, online support disappearing. Push it in and play because it's your property which you exchanged money for. The scariest part about all of this is that it might be a thing of the past. You won't be able to share games or sell them or trade them in. They'll be locked to one account which is at the mercy of Sony. If your license ends, gone. If you get banned, even for a false reason, gone. Sony can't take your physical products from you, but they can do whatever they want with your digital ones. Eventually, even digital data will no longer be owned by individuals on their own initiative. Whenever there is a major change or accident in the world, in a country, in a government, in an idea, in a trend, access to it may suddenly be cut off. But there's another major problem with digital games. Physical prices fluctuate with supply and demand. But for digital, Sony controls the store and the price. They can also determine what price you pay versus what your friend pays. And recently, people discovered a massive experiment where
Hence
Sony
taking away the
quietly
resale
did
market.
exactly this. Click here to learn the rest of that story. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
All right, y'all, that's going to be the end of the video. Shouts out to them. I'll be sure to link the original video in case y'all want to go check out some more of their content. But yeah, man, this is a crazy space that the gaming world is in. And I definitely think that at some point or another, we're going to see the end of consoles. That's just my opinion. That's just what I'm seeing on the horizon, the future forecast. I could be wrong, but yeah, I don't think Sony is going to be able to recover from this. I mean, like you said, you got fanboys that are of physical media and some that don't mind digital. I'm kind of like in the middle, but I understand both sides. But to just completely get rid of it, yeah, it's like, makes you think, PlayStation, Sony's days may be numbered. Like I said earlier, maybe their best days are behind them in terms of gaming. You know what I mean? And so their focus is to just make cameras, you know what I mean? And do that. But yeah, if y'all made it this far, I appreciate you. Make sure you check the like button, sub to the channel, and spam the comments until your asses get kicked out. Y'all let me know what y'all think on this. That being said, it's your boy Robbie. Till the next video, we out.